Hi there, this is Dawn McVeigh with Make It Monday. Today we're going to be talking about how to use border dies to create various background patterns. I recently created a card for a countdown project using the heart border die. Here's the card here, and you can see that I die cut a bunch of strips of rustic cream cardstock with this heart border die, and I just alternated those strips back and forth across the bottom of that rustic cream cardstock panel to create a really pretty pattern. Papertrey has lots of different border dies that would work for this project, and you can use any border die that you'd like, but for today we're going to be using the filigree border die. I've gone ahead and die cut several strips of craft cardstock with the filigree border die, and I've got a two-way glue pen here that I'm going to use to run some glue along the bottom portion of each of these strips. So once I've got the glue on, I'm just going to line up the bottom edge of the die cut strip with the bottom edge of the cardstock. Not going to worry about trimming off the edges yet, we'll do that at the end. So now I want to alternate the pattern so that it's upside down, and I'm going to repeat the same steps with the glue. I also want to slide the pattern just slightly over to the left so that it sort of tucks down into the scallops from the first row. Now, when creating patterns like this, I could have just as easily kept the scallops so that they were perfectly lined up straight, or I could have kept them so that they were all pointing with the flowers pointing up. There's a lot of different ways you can variate your pattern depending on the die cut that you're using. So when you get ready to make one of your own, be sure and play around for a little bit and see what different patterns you can come up with. It's actually kind of fun to see what all different patterns you can create with a single die. So this time I decided I wanted to bump the bottom edge right up to the previous die cut and line those flowers up. And then this time I'm going to space them back out in between the scallops on the previous row. Just kind of eyeballing it here so I can see exactly where I need to put the glue before I flip it upside down. So I've continued with my pattern all the way up the length of the cardstock, and now I'm just going to flip it over, and with some paper snips I'm just going to trim off all of that excess. What I've ended up with is a really pretty pattern that I could leave as is. However, right along that seam, I'm going to add a little bit of zigzag stitching. Now I'm going to go ahead and adhere it to my card front. I've got some melonberry cardstock here that I've already cut and scored, and I'm just going to adhere my panel right to the front of the card. Next, I've got another little piece of melonberry cardstock that was die cut with the Signature Series butterfly die, and I'm just going to use a foam square to add it to the front of the card. Now I'm going to top that with a melonberry button. And lastly, I need to add the sentiment. I've got a little stamp here. It says a note of thanks that's from the Matte Stack 4 collection stamp set. I'm just going to stamp it right on a little strip of rustic cream cardstock. I'm going to use a skinny little strip of score tape to adhere this to the button. So I'll go ahead and put that on the back side. And then I want to trim off the edges. I'm going to make sure they're nice and straight. And there we have it. A pretty little background pattern created with the filigree border die. We'd love to see your take on this week's challenge. If you'd like to play along, feel free to pull out those border dies and make a pretty pattern. Use it on a card and head over to Nicole Hetty's blog where you can upload the link to your project so we can all see what you came up with. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a great day. This has been Dawn McVeigh with Make It Monday.